Good morning. You are watching Filibusted Headlines, and I am Ryan Howard. We got some interesting things to cover today. We're going to be covering Elon Musk's last day at Doge, President Trump calling out China on tariffs again. There's some new information there. We've got U.S. inflation rates, and we've got a special guest. Troy Black is going to be joining us to talk about an urgent threat to iPhone users. And we're going to talk about whether this could really just be a scam by Apple. So it's going to be interesting, but let's go ahead and just dive right in here. So first off, we have in the Middle East, the ceasefire is kind of up in the air. And so Israel and Gaza are on the edge of a legitimate ceasefire, but famine is breaking out in Gaza. It's really what's knocking on the front door here in Gaza. And according to sources at the White House, Israel has officially signed off on the deal that proposes a 60-day truce, but this ceasefire was broken just a couple weeks after in the most recent one back in March. And so Hamas also claims that the terms of the new ceasefire do not commit to ending the war. My commentary on that is, does that mean that the ceasefire terms don't include destroying Israel and removing them from the planet? I don't know, from the river to the sea. It's not funny, but it's kind of ridiculous. You can't really negotiate with terrorists. So this is always very interesting. Like I mentioned already, the one back in March already was broken. But this ceasefire proposal comes from the U.S. and was signed off by President Trump. And regardless of the terms of the new ceasefire deal, Hamas is, quote, thoroughly reviewing the plan, and they criticize the plan already as failing to meet any of the just and legitimate demands of their people. But they will act responsibly by considering it. So I think I just gave you their most important demand, which is to remove Israel from the face of the planet. But I don't think that's going to be in the ceasefire deal. I have not read it myself, but I'm guessing that's not in there. But this new ceasefire plan is supposed to include an exchange for hostages, but does keep Israel in the door at Gaza. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes. But we have an article from the BBC that claims that senior officials at Hamas plan to reject the proposal, but mediators are waiting for the response in writing. So far, the rhetoric suggests that Hamas will likely reject the ceasefire. So I really am not surprised by this, and I think anything they do accept is suspect. I mean, you can't really negotiate with terrorists, known terrorist groups. They're not a legitimate authority. So it will be interesting to see what comes out of this, but it's definitely something we need to keep an eye on, especially when we're having a watch on what's going on with Israel. So despite some of the efforts from the U.S. providing aid to Gaza in the form of food, this country is still on the brink of famine. So this is a huge deal. I mean, it's a huge consideration. And look at this. The UN humanitarian agency, OCHA, says Gaza is the hungriest place on earth, and that 100% of the population of Gaza is at risk of famine. Wow. And now we want to blame Israel for maybe coming in and doing all this. And now we don't say they're 100% clean, but we could blame some leadership of Gaza here, and they're not allowing things to operate in an economy in the way they should be in order for people to not be starving and for people to have what they need. We saw a similar thing in North Korea, where they were a thriving society over 100 years ago, and government took over, and now there's mass starvation all over the place. And so the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has distributed more than 2 million meals, and all these efforts to provide food and medicine to the area are reportedly disastrous. Listen to this. The Secretary General of the charity Doctors Without Borders even goes so far to suggest that the donations are being used as a tool to displace people. So it's just another tool that they're using to control people and to lead in this authoritarian terrorist regime. So, well, it's a very complicated situation. So, yeah, let's try and stay on top of what's going on there. All right, next up, we've got Elon Musk, his last day at Doge. The president will hold a press conference at the White House today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, and it will be a send-off for Elon and his last full day at Doge. But although he'll be spending his majority of time doing other things, he'll still be involved. His Doge initiatives have received a lot of support from Americans and major pushback from others. So a recent poll by Fox News, 77% of pollsters said that Elon Musk was qualified to run Doge. 20% said no, 3% were not sure. So I think, I don't know. I think that people who say no or not sure really have no clue about anything with companies or anything that involves a process or a system or anything like that. That doesn't make any sense. Or they just really have a not an affinity for Trump or Elon. Or perhaps they liked Elon until Trump liked him, and then now they don't. But that's going to be funny and interesting to see. But Trump, of course, in true Trump fashion, posted a farewell thought on Truth Social yesterday. And he said, this will be his last day, but not really, because he will always be with us, helping all the way. Elon is terrific. So had an exclamation point there, and lots of fun always seeing what Trump's going to be tweeting out. All right. So next up, shocker, we need to talk about China. And just this morning, President Trump took to Truth Social, and this is about the tariffs, and he called China to the floor again. And he says that China has totally violated its agreements with the U.S. And so this has been quite a fiasco, what's been going on here. But the Dow Jones, S&P 500, and NASDAQ all responded with a moderate dip in futures since Trump made the veiled threat against China, basically saying no more Mr. Nice Guy. So U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer sided with President Trump, saying, we're very concerned. The U.S. did exactly what it was supposed to do, and the Chinese are slow rolling their compliance. So this is sort of the playbook. I mean, this is the playbook for China and what they're doing. So I think it's great that Trump understands how important when you're negotiating with Asian companies or Asian governments, especially China, the idea of status and the public facing image is very important. And Trump knows how to use this. I mean, obviously he's been working with China for decades. And so he knows how to use this to his advantage. It's beneficial to him to do this very publicly. And so we talked about on other episodes how China really for him, for the President Xi to save face, he really needs to publicly facing disagree and do any of his things privately to agree. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this. But this actually came after a court ruling on President Trump's tariffs that his tariffs exceeded his authority and blocked his use of the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act that allowed the tariffs. And the Court of Appeals is temporarily allowing the use of these tariffs while President Trump appeals the decision. You know, I got to dig into that Supreme Court ruling because that just seems crazy to me, and it doesn't make any sense. I'm sure people have been mischaracterizing that, but yeah, tariff. It's going to be interesting. I really need to dive into that. Maybe we'll do that on another episode. So here we have also inflation that is at a new low that hasn't been seen since February 2021. And so this is despite all the China tariff debacle and against what some economists are expecting. They were expecting a rise. And so this rate of inflation has dropped to 2.1, according to the Fed's preferred gauge. And Trump had a meeting with Fed Chair Jerome Powell yesterday, and he pressured him to reduce inflation rates. So just a few weeks ago, if you remember this, Trump called out Powell on social media, and he said he was a fool who doesn't have a clue. This is fun to watch. The goal is to get inflation down to 2%, a fight that will continue as tariffs challenge the attempt. So I mean, lots of news here, and some of these, it's interesting. You can see you could have so many same storylines coming through the headlines, but then new things coming in and seeing how it's going to be adjusted. So we need to go to our final topic here and bring on our special guest, Troy Black. Welcome, Troy.
Well, I was muted. Can y'all hear me? Let me try to get my article up here, and then we will get started. All right, so we're going to be talking about the iPhone. Great job, Ryan. Thanks for delivering the news for us this morning. And so this is crazy. This is an urgent threat to iPhone users that just came out this morning. This is a Fox News video. And this is Kurt, the cyber guy, Knudsen, I guess you say his name. He's warning iPhone users to update their iOS immediately to the latest version. So we're going to be talking about, is this a legitimate threat or is this a scam from Apple? And I'm going to give you all my personal story and then some actual evidence. Okay, so this is what the host says. There's definitely a sense of urgency with this one. And the question is, well, why? And he said, normally, this cyber guy suggested normally you just set up the automatic updates and that's fine. But he said today he would suggest manually updating your iPhone to 8.5 software. Or else, he says, hackers can get sensitive information. And then he said, go ahead, tell your family, friends, loved ones, hey, go ahead and do this because something weird is going on and we don't want bad things to happen to you. So that is just weird. That's a weird way to phrase it. You know, it's like a fearful mindset. But here's the catch. And I'm not saying that there's not an actual data breach happening. I think there is, right? But here's the catch. I think Apple just made a bundle, and I think them getting free news coverage from companies like Fox and saying, hey, there's a serious data breach threat. I think they're making a bunch of money off of this. Why? Well, the main reason that I've had to update my laptops or computers over the years, and I've used Apple a lot because I've worked with, graphic design, video, media, all that kind of stuff. And typically their computers do really well in that area. And the main reason I've had to buy a new computer over the years has not been that it stopped working just randomly, and it's not been that it couldn't handle the software or something. It's been an actual update that I've done, and then the computer stops working. Because Apple, they used to do updates every so often, every once in a while. Back in the 90s, we had Windows doing updates every couple years or whatever. Now we have updates every single month, or every few months. And so there's this idea that Apple wants to continually deliver software updates so that eventually your phone or your computer or your laptop or iPad, whatever it is, can't handle it. And then here's what happens is you go one of two ways. You either go to, well, I've got to try to get Apple to fix this. I've got to go onto the forums, onto the blogs, or you start feeling that like cultural shame of, oh man, I should have bought a new iPhone like last year. I knew I should have because all my friends have the latest one and I'm a couple years behind, and this is just my fault. So I'm going to go buy a new one, right? Well, this is obviously very opinionated, but here's just a couple forums online. This is like what a lot of iPhone users have experienced. Apple broke my perfectly working iPhone with an update, and now you guys don't want to take responsibility and fix the issue. iOS 17 broke my phone. Update broke my phone. Like, this is a constant issue online. Here's a couple actual pieces of evidence that Apple cares about money, and they don't care about whether you have a working phone or not as much as they care about making a bundle. So this is something that Apple just finally started to bend to the pressure this last year, 2024. Apple begins to support consumers' right to repair. So before 2024, Apple held onto the rights to repair very tightly, and essentially it was a closed system. So if you needed an update, you had to take it to Apple, right? Or if you needed a repair or a fix, you had to take it to Apple. And they did not provide the Apple hardware to other repair facilities. So people could essentially, number one, you had two options. Either you go to Apple and you get them to repair it, and then if it's not under warranty anymore, they make money off the repair, or you have to go buy a new one if they can't repair it. They go, oh, sorry, we can't fix this. And I had that happen to me where I sent in something. They said, this is unfixable. I said, well, can I go get somebody else to fix it? And they're like, no, only Apple can fix it. I'm like, what on earth? And they're like, you just have to buy a new one. That was their answer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I can't afford a new one, right? Okay, here's another just bit of evidence that Apple, all they care about is money. And when they see somebody making money that they don't have a hand in, they want to get a piece of it. So Apple has always taken about a 30% cut from everything that happens in the App Store. And there's actually been a huge legal battle in the court system because developers started pushing back. And this is not known to most app users, but it is known is a very, very, very popular topic among developers. Developers started pushing back inside the app, and they started putting links inside their apps to go pay for extra features outside on their website because they didn't want Apple taking a 30% cut, which is just an insane cut for a platform provider to take. So Apple fought back. They started blocking links to outside payment processors. They said, okay, there are no links outside the apps. Now you have to pay inside. Then the courts got involved, and after a legal battle, the courts forced Apple to allow the outside links, right? Then what does Apple do? They say, okay, we're going to allow the outside links, but we are going to take a 27% commission on all those sales. So we're going to charge, once we realize that you're making money off of those outside links, we're going to charge you as a developer a 27% commission. Then Epic Games did the unthinkable, and they actually built a payment processor inside of their app, and they run the popular game Fortnite, which I've only played one time a long time ago, but Apple then turned around and kicked them off the platform completely. Apple said, okay, well, we're the big boss in town. You're not even going to play anymore. they kicked him off. So just within the last month or so, they finally started to release their crazy control over these payments. I mean, I was using a Patreon, to support my ministry channel, and you could use it. This is just a personal experience. You could use it inside of the actual Apple app, right? And they stopped allowing you to pay for a monthly subscription there in the app because of Apple's crazy commissions that they suddenly said, oh, people are going to your store or going to your website and signing up for these subscriptions. They said, we want a part of that cut as well. Like, they literally are just trying to get their hand into any business that's making money that's any way using the Apple systems. They're trying to take money from them. So just within the last month, they finally started releasing control, and Fortnite is officially back on Apple products. So we're seeing a little bit of a release of the pressure, but at the same time, I think it's pretty obvious that Apple cares about making money more than they care about people. And here's what I think that they could be doing is they could be using, essentially, when a data breach like this happens, a lot of people have to update. And when they finally update, they go, oh, darn, my phone doesn't work anymore. I have to go buy a new one. And Apple makes a bunch of money. So they're not going to actually be very efficient at, number one, stopping the data breaches, but they're also not going to be very efficient at making their updates worthwhile. What do you think, Ryan?
I agree. Anytime somebody comes and says, this is urgent, it's very unusual. Like, that's kind of a reason to pause. When I saw this, I went to my phone because I turned off automatic updates a few years ago for the same reason, because there were updates that were being made that was, I don't remember what it was at the time. It was during, maybe there was some government surveillance or something happening, and you wanted to make sure that you knew what was going to happen in that update, before you put it out. But the thing is, I wonder if this is sort of, I wonder if we're going to see some government documents or FBI or NSA or whatever coming out that they've been pressuring to do this so that we can hurry up and quietly get more access to people's data, where you need to get, it's the opposite, actually. Maybe it's not that the breach is already there. How long has it been since that previous update? And they're just now knowing this. And so maybe the breach is actually in 18.5, and that's what they want to do. And then they'll come out and say, well, we didn't quite get it fixed, so let's do it. Let's do another one here. And then it's just snowballing. But I don't know, man. I think you're right on. I didn't even think about this right to repair. That's something that I saw a lot in the agricultural equipment industry, and even trucks and automotive vehicles, where you have to take it to a dealer to get it repaired, because everything, even the braking system, is done electronically. Like, you need a computer for your brakes to work on your vehicle. It's not even a mechanical system anymore. And you got to buy like a $10,000 thing to hook up to it to even see what's going on with the error codes. And so,
yeah, it's locked down. They lock it down. Yeah, they don't let anyone get into it.
Yeah. And so I think it's important, I mean, I'm with you, man. So like for my work stuff in my career, it was all PC. And then, but for my personal stuff, and now everything for my own business and everything I'm doing, it's all Apple. And so I'm in the Apple ecosystem. It's all, it all talks to each other. It all does very well, but got a lot of concerns. I mean, let's don't forget, these are all physically made in China. So, I mean, that's interesting, I think, but I don't know. I think this could, problem. And the whole idea of planned obsolescence is infuriating. Like, I haven't had such the issue with my laptops. I think I've had 3 different Macs since 2011, and I kind of just needed more computing power is really why I upgraded. Another one, I spilled coffee on it, but I think that it still worked, but I don't know, man. The phones, my phone is a 12, is the iPhone 12 mini. So this is like archaic, and I can't believe, I'm surprised it's still working, and I probably shouldn't have shared that, but I don't know. They don't even make minis anymore, because I guess enough people didn't like them, but I don't know. I'll say this. My first iPhone was the 4S, and it was incredible. And I have waited all night to be the first through the door for the 5. And turns out I didn't need to wait all night for that. But so I like Apple stuff, but the 4S, like, I'll never forget, like, you're typing and you don't hit the letter quite right, but it puts the right letter. Like, it just kind of got better at it. And it's like literally every single phone and every single update has been worse. Like, I can't type the same. I can't, like, they need to stop. I don't want AI in the phone. I don't want all this fancy stuff. I want it to just type when I hit the letter on the corner, type the right letter instead of the wrong. Like, it's so simple. And Siri, the voice to text, has gotten worse in some ways. And so there's a little rant for me, but they should be worried about that stuff, not all this other planned obsolescence and all that. But I think that could be what they're doing on purpose.
I think everybody that has iPhone or Apple equipment of any kind needs to look at their budget yearly and say, how much money did Apple take from me this year? And I'm not saying they're not offering a good service, they're not offering good technology, but at the same time, sometimes we pay way too much, and we're essentially signing over way too much of our hard-earned cash, for something that we could be getting a lot cheaper. Something that me and my wife Leslie do is we go buy. So, like you said, you have an iPhone 12. I have an iPhone 13. So nice. we buy these secondhand from, I think, backmarket.com, and we make sure that they still work and stuff, and then we, I will typically let it be updated unless I'm afraid that it's going to, break the system or something like that. But we end up paying like maybe $120 for a used iPhone, right? Which is dirt cheap for an iPhone.
Yeah.
And then it will last as many years as I can go, not breaking it, right? Not dropping it and smashing it on the cement, and it'll last a long time. And a lot of users would say, well, I get my iPhone for free, or I get it for like just $200 or $300 when I sign up for a plan. But the problem with that is you actually end up paying for that with a very high monthly phone bill. Whereas, me and my wife use Mint Mobile, and I think we pay $200, no less than $200. It's like $180 for the year for our phone plan. Yeah. And some people are paying like $100 a month or something like that. Like, it's just insane, and you end up, you don't realize it, but you're like, okay, they build the price of the iPhone into the plan. And over a course of a year or 2 years, you end up paying double for your iPhone, like $2,000 or something, $2,400. And it's just insane when you actually look at how much of my budget is going towards this, and I think it is a big, whether you're looking at it from the perspective of they're actually scamming me, or this is just a big system that's set up to make me to break my bank. Either way, it once you start looking at the numbers, it feels like a scam, and there's got to be a better way. And so, I would highly suggest, if you're tired of paying so much for your phone, like, look into the used phones that are unlocked, that you can get a cheap service provider like Mint Mobile. We've never had a problem. This is not an ad for them. They didn't pay us to say this, but I'm just saying, hey, that would be nice if we got a commission off of that.
Yeah,
I'll take that 27% commission, Mint, for plugging you. But anyways, what do you think, Ryan? Last closing comments.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to check out this backmarket.com. I like the idea of, there's lots of options now for cheaper phone service and all of that. My problem is I need international service, and so there's more limited options there. But even that is getting better. I mean, even more competition is coming there, and so I think it's going to be interesting. I'd be interested to know. We gotta have to go through these comments here and see what people are saying. But I don't know. I think it might be. I would rather update the phone, every 10 years and not every 3 years or 4 years. And so I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm definitely going to be checking out this backmarket.com on your recommendation there.
All right. Well, thanks for delivering the news this morning, Ryan. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Let us know in the comments afterwards what you think about this whole situation. What do you use for your phone service provider, and what are the workarounds that you've discovered? So y'all have a wonderful, blessed Friday, and we'll see you next time.